Imagine you're living 50,000 years ago. There are no churches, no temples, no wedding dresses, no rings, no marriage certificates. Not even the word wedding exists. Yet somehow, over thousands of years, nearly every civilization on Earth would eventually invent some version of the same strange tradition. Two people stand in front of family and friends. They exchange gifts. They make promises. Everyone celebrates with food, music, and dancing. Why? Why would people living thousands of miles apart, with completely different languages and cultures, all create ceremonies that look surprisingly similar? Did one civilization invent weddings and teach everyone else? Or did something much older shape them all? The answer begins long before the first cities, long before farming, long before history itself. It begins with one of humanity's biggest survival problems: children. Compared to almost every other animal, human babies are incredibly helpless. A foal can stand within hours. Young gazelles can run the same day they're born. Human babies, however, need years of constant care before they can survive on their own. For ancient parents, that created a serious challenge. One adult often couldn't gather enough food, protect against predators, and care for a child at the same time. Raising children became a team effort. Anthropologists believe this is one reason long-term pair bonds became increasingly important in human evolution. Not because humans suddenly became romantics, because cooperation kept children alive. But here's the strange part. Living together wasn't enough. Other people needed to know. Imagine two neighboring groups meeting near a river. Without any clear understanding of who belonged to whom, misunderstandings could quickly become dangerous. Who was responsible for helping them? Who would care for children if one parent died? Who could form alliances with their families? Without clear answers, conflict became much more likely. So ancient communities slowly developed ways of making relationships public. At first, it may have been incredibly simple: sharing a meal, giving a valuable gift, moving into the same shelter, or receiving approval from respected elders. None of these were weddings as we know them today. But they solve an important problem. Everyone understood the relationship had changed. That public recognition did something private relationships never could. It connected two families instead of just two people. And in the ancient world, family often meant survival. The more relatives willing to help during droughts, sickness, or conflict, the better your chances of living through another year. Marriage wasn't only about love. For most of history, it was also about building stronger communities. Then something unexpected happened. Gift giving became tradition. Archaeologists have uncovered shells, beads, carved ornaments, and colorful pigments buried with ancient people dating back tens of thousands of years. Many of these objects had little practical value. They weren't tools or weapons. They were symbols. Across many cultures, exchanging valuable objects became a powerful way of showing trust and commitment. If someone willingly gave away something difficult to replace, it sent a clear message. This relationship matters. Over generations, those symbolic exchanges became more elaborate. Families offered livestock, clothing, and jewelry. A public gift demonstrated a public promise. Then came another surprising development: celebration. At first glance, throwing a feast after forming a new family seems wasteful. Food was precious. Preparing enough for dozens of people required enormous effort. So why do it? Because sharing food creates trust. Anthropologists have long observed that communal feasts strengthen social bonds, reduce tensions, and reinforce cooperation. A wedding feast wasn't simply a party. It announced something to the entire community. These two people now belonged to one another. Their families were connected. Their future children would belong to both lineages. And everyone present became a witness. Without realizing it, ancient humans had begun creating something that would survive for thousands of years. Not because anyone planned to invent weddings, but because every small tradition solved another problem. And soon, those simple traditions would evolve into some of the most elaborate ceremonies in human history. But if weddings began as practical agreements, where did all the strange traditions come from? The dancing, the special clothing, the promises, the music. None of these helped people hunt, gather food, or survive a harsh winter. Or did they? Imagine arriving at another tribe's camp. Dozens of strangers are watching you. Tension fills the air. Nobody knows whether this meeting will end in friendship or violence. Now imagine the two groups begin singing together. People start dancing around a fire. Food is shared. Children laugh while elders exchange stories. Without a single battle, fear begins to disappear. Modern psychologists know that shared rituals create feelings of trust and belonging. Ancient humans didn't understand the science, but they understood the results. Communities that celebrated together were far less likely to fight each other afterward. In many ways, early wedding ceremonies became peace ceremonies. They united not only two people, but sometimes entire clans. This explains another mystery. Why were so many weddings witnessed by large groups of people? Because witnesses mattered. Long before written contracts existed, memory was the law. If 20 people watched a public ceremony, everyone knew what had been agreed upon. Promises were no longer private. They belonged to the community. Breaking those promises could damage a family's reputation for generations. As civilizations appeared, these traditions became more elaborate. In Mesopotamia, marriages were recorded on clay tablets. In Egypt, couples tied together property and inheritance. Across China and India, ancestors were honored, sacred fires were lit, and family approval became central to every union. The customs looked different, but the purpose remained the same: to make one relationship visible to everyone else. Then another idea slowly appeared: symbols. Humans have always loved symbols because they allow simple objects to carry powerful meaning. A flower can represent love. A flag can represent a nation. A simple circle can represent eternity. This is probably why rings became associated with marriage across so many cultures. A circle has no beginning and no end. It became a perfect symbol for an enduring promise. Not every civilization used rings. Some exchanged necklaces. Others tied knots or braided hair together. The objects changed. The message stayed the same. We choose each other. Perhaps the most surprising part of this story is that weddings were never truly invented by one person. No king announced them. No inventor designed them. No civilization owned the idea. Instead, they evolved slowly over thousands of years. One generation added a feast. Another added gifts. Another invited witnesses. Another introduced music. Another created beautiful clothing for the occasion. Piece by piece, the ceremony grew. What began as a practical solution for raising children and connecting families slowly transformed into one of humanity's oldest traditions. Even today, millions of weddings still contain echoes of those ancient beginnings. Families gather. Food is shared. Promises are made. Witnesses celebrate. Symbols are exchanged. The details may look modern, but their roots stretch back to a time when survival depended on cooperation rather than romance. So did ancient humans accidentally invent weddings? Yes. They weren't trying to create a celebration that would last tens of thousands of years. They were solving everyday problems, protecting children, building alliances, strengthening their communities. The ceremony came later. Behind every ring, every feast, and every promise lies a story far older than written history. A story that began not with romance, but with humanity's determination to survive together. The next time you see two people standing before their families, exchanging vows, remember this. You're not just watching a celebration. You're witnessing one of the oldest survival strategies our species ever created, refined over thousands of generations into the tradition we now call a wedding.